Hey,
Hello.
Drew.
How are you doing?
I'm I'm good. I had a lovely acupuncture appointment this morning.
Ah,
So,
nice. I've never had that
other than
before. I've always
coming
been
yawning
curious.
like crazy,
Ah,
so who knows? I may be a little on the sleepy side. We'll find out.
okay, no problem. I have a feeling there'll be enough energetic charge to keep it going now.
There is that possibility. That's for sure.
Conversations like this seem to generate energy out of nothing, it seems like.
See if I can get a little more light in here. There.
She vanished. She's demonstrating her own inherent emptiness. She vanished into thin air.
What was there to vanish is the question.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a rainbow dissolving into the sky. There never was anything there. Yeah.
Yeah, a glimmer of light and perception, and the experiencing of a rainbow called rainbow.
Yeah.
That's all that was there.
Good to see you. It's good to be here with you, even though there's nobody here, there, or here.
But that's the beauty of it. There is and there isn't.
There is an appearance. As empty as it is, there really is an appearance. Yeah, thank God.
It's absolutely real. It's just not real in the way we think of it.
Yeah, it's just not a physical world of separation, but it's
Right.
really appearing. Yeah.
It's really appearing. I'm really having the experience.
Yeah.
What a
Really does seem like. Yeah,
a
successfully.
holy fractal graphic playground,
Yeah.
And if people all knew that, it wouldn't end life as we know it.
Yeah.
That part, the visual of it,
Right.
but it would change it completely. I mean, if people didn't have the fear of dying,
Yeah. Right.
which everything else seems to stem,
Yeah.
what could heaven on earth, literally. But I don't know whether this place is designed for that. I think it's a kindergarten planet.
Well, the way I used to think about it, people are like, I'm trying to wake everybody up. And it's like, well, if everybody woke up, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be a functional dream world anymore. Like, I'm pretty sure civilization would come crumbling down. Like, I don't think it's built to have 100% of all adult humans in that state. Like, I don't think we would even, you know what I mean? Like, I have the feeling that like 0.1% of adult humans are in that state, and it's always that way or something. Like maybe there are
like
ages
there's a lot more
where it's more, maybe it is that we're on the up and up, more people are waking up, etc. But I have a feeling like if literally everybody was, things would be so different that it wouldn't even be the world as we know it anymore.
I have spoken about it like the flint and the rock. You bring the two together, the two partisanship or whatever you want to look at. You look at the two opposites, you bring them together, and through that something new is created. Generally not created new for both, but for one. Is that the way it has to be here? I have no idea. It seems to me that's the way it is. That's all I can basically go on. And it looks like we're in many respects spiraling downward. And in other respects, I know, and I don't think it's just because I'm pretty careful as to all the people that I choose to interact with on Facebook. But seems to me like there are a lot more people that are actually waking up. And
could be.
It's funny. I thought I was until I actually did.
Yeah, I had a feeling of like I rambled on about awakening for years and years prior to it happening.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like fully under the impression like, oh, I'm awake now. Like, I was
Oh
never
no,
under that
I've
impression.
never been there.
But I thought I knew what it was. I
Yeah.
thought I knew what it was. And then when it happened, it was like, oh, this is a little different than, or
No,
radically different than what I thought.
This is not what.
Yeah, it's very different from what I ran. Then I went back like years before, like, oh shit, what did I say? What was I spamming all over my wall, all matter of factly years before this happened?
all those lovely practices and
Yeah, all those advanced techniques. Yeah, it's funny.
Oh yeah, they're gonna do a
Or
whole lot of good.
all the little glimpses that seemed huge at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe this is it.
But they
This is a
were,
tiny little
because
yeah, exactly.
they were huge at the time, because
Yeah,
without
exactly.
them, it's that
Right.
it's that old, you walk down the alley and it's dead end and you smack your head on the bricks, you bleed. And if you do that 99 times before, on the 100th time, you go, oh shit, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
For the 99
Yeah.
wasted. No, I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Edison said. He said, I didn't fail at making the light bulb 3,000 different ways. I found 3,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
I remember that quote. I love
I like
that
that.
one. I
You know,
just
something
wish
again
it would be
about
so nice if our world actually got that failure is not failure at all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what stops people from so-called perceived success, is the emotional charge tied to perceived failure, even though there's no such thing as success or failure. And yet one other thing I wanted to say real quick about kind of, the idea of like, oh, well, like it's people like us, we might be prone to say something like, well, it seems pretty obvious more and more people are waking up because my friends list is filled with living sages. How could it not be the case? But you have to understand that if you were really that passionate about, say, gardening instead of awakening, you'd have hundreds of world expert class gardeners on your friends list, and you'd be selectively talking only to really advanced gardeners. You know what I mean?
I don't know
It's
whether
like the
there's
algorithm
actually
of
more.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're into painting, you're gonna have all the world's greatest artists. You're gonna be bumping elbows with all of a sudden. This is how the algorithm works. So it makes me wonder how much of this is just this AI algorithm saying, "Oh, you're into awakening? Okay, we'll show you more of that. Oh, you're into gardening? Okay, we'll show you more of that." It depends on. You just might be inhabiting a niche where, you know what I mean?
We're the only
That makes
ones
me
in the
wonder.
world are on my feed. I doubt that, but yes, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Like it's, and it also needs to be said that, awakening is far more common and ordinary than the average seeker would lead themselves into believing. So that's one of the impediments from them waking up, is thinking, oh, this must be so insanely rare. There's only 7 legitimate Buddhas or sages on planet. It's like, no, there's a lot. It's not quite as rare as the seeker thinks. And it's also not quite as common as the, oh, well, everyone on earth needs to wake up perspective. It's somewhere,
And
maybe
also
1 in
not
1,000
quite
or
as
1 in
exotic
10,000.
as
Yeah.
people thought.
Yeah, very ordinary.
It's literally ordinary. And
yeah, every tree frog has this. Yeah.
Yes, it's nothing that nothing that I have or you have that somebody else.
No other. Yeah, exactly. What we claim. Yeah, exactly. What is realized to be what is every so-called being is.
Yes. Nicely. I think it was. I mean, nicely put together.
Yeah.
Words.
And in Buddhism, I like there's 2 different sets of statements. There's the relative seeking perspective statement, and there's the absolute awakened mind perspective. And they would say things like, the seeking mind within Buddhism would say, may all beings be free. But the absolute perspective would say, all beings are free.
And it's
I appreciate the absolute statement now more, because it shows the other side of that. And it makes more sense.
This speaks through us as it will.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's sometimes confusing to people, because I'll be speaking from the standpoint of the absolute, or then I'll be speaking from the standpoint
or you'll flip-flop and it'll be irritating to them. Yeah, exactly.
And it's just however it's coming through in that particular moment.
Exactly. So if I say I'm going to the store, they say, well, I thought there was nobody there. How could they go? And I thought there was no store. Like, yeah. But I'm going to the store now. Did you want orange juice?
There is this
you can't
appearance
flip-flop.
at least.
Sure I can. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
At the store anyway.
That's one of the main misconceptions, or that's one of the things that like gets under the skin of seekers. They'll see a sage flip-flopping between the absolute and relative. They go, "You're just doing that as a cop-out. You're trying blah, 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 blah." No, it's not that. Like, I get why you would think that. I used to think that too. It is not that. Like, there's no other way to speak in this manner and still function in the world.
and the world, I mean, there's nothing but this.
Yeah.
The world is this too.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, I mean, we spend most of our spiritual paths getting rid of our beliefs and getting rid of, and then, you know, that's why I think transcendence is such the rage for everybody.
Yeah, trying to transcend.
But
yeah, exactly.
That's only the beginning of the path, because there's the bringing it back into the recognition that the world is this. There's nothing but this.
Right.
And it takes on the absolute and the form or formlessness, and it takes on the form of everything here. And it's all precious. It's all priceless. It's all, whether it's the grocery store and going in, you know, in the morning to get your coffee, or whether it's sitting in bliss, they're both blissful once you recognize what it all is.
Yeah, behind and underneath there's an enjoyment of everything.
Regardless
and this
of
world
what's
is
happening.
Exactly. Regardless of external circumstances, there's a peace, there's an enjoyment, there's a savoring of this appearance. And part of the reason for that too is, you know, the world itself is an abiding of that formless absolute whatever, you know, like that literally is this, like this is an expression of that nature. Yeah, it already is that. Like, we say things, we tend to speak in terms of like, oh, you have to bring the absolute into this world, but really this world is that. It is the expression of that already. It's
just the mind that just can't quite grasp it and can't quite grasp it. So it looks like it's being brought in, but it's at all. It's the mind catching up, or the mind falling apart completely. I don't know exactly what that is. So it's just absolutely mind-blowingly perfect. And the freedom that comes with the understanding, I don't know what other words to use here, is just the absolute freedom to love everything. I've dealt with some heart issues in the past couple of years, some pretty substantial heart issues, and was in the emergency room with all of the doctors and the blue codes and everything going off. And they were all running into the room, and my friend was sitting in the corner, because they were wanting her out of the way. And I just winked at her, because I mean, it was all happening. My heart was going 250 some odd beats a minute.
Whoa.
It was insane, and there was just absolutely no fear. It was it was just like,
and it's not a choice you made. It's not like, okay, I'm going to be fearless. It's just part of being in this state. It's like, sometimes the only thing that'll freak me out is like, it'll freak me out that I'm not freaked out, or I'll get a little scared because there's no fear at all, or I'll get a little anxious because there's zero anxiety. I'm like, wasn't that dangerous? Zero anxiety, zero fear, not caring at all. Like, that's the part that gives you a tiny little hint of anxiety, fear, to like the fact that there isn't any, you know. Like, well, isn't that supposed to? I guess everything's fine.
It's just not there.
It's not we're choosing to be fearless, or it's just not there.
It's just not there. In fact, I know that the doctors, several of them, looked at me like,
there's something different about you.
Why aren't you anxious about this? And in fact, one of them actually even asked me, and I said, is that going to help it? He says, no, it will actually make it worse. But
okay, then. Yeah. Then why are you concerned about me not being concerned? Yeah. Do your job, doc.
I said, I'll either be here at the end of the day or I won't be. You know.
Either way is fine. Yeah.
And either way is good.
Like, what?
And you got to be very, very careful when you, very, very careful when you say that around hospitals, because they'll want to put you upstairs and
exactly. You gotta be
straight jacket.
Yeah, you're not thinking like the rest of us. We're going to lock you away because you're different. Yeah, exactly.
And so it's learning to completely embody it without the little, wait a minute, I'm not anxious at all.
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. That's only when it's new, you know? Yeah, exactly.
I have had the last 2 years, one thing after another that literally just kind of ripped away any residual reaction, and proved proved absolutely that there is no control in this world. And it just kind of stripped it out of my hands. So now I'm just here as long as I am. And even when I'm not, I still will be. Where would I go?
Right. Yeah, that's what Ramon always said. I'm here now. Where will I go? They're all concerned about him. What should we do about the cancer in your elbow? He's like, nothing. Why would you have to do something? Everything's perfect. Like, well, can we try this special Ayurvedic poultice? He's like, okay, if you want to, go ahead. Like, well, can we try this radiation thing from the okay, if you really feel that way, go ahead. Well, what do you recommend? Do nothing. Oh, okay. And he'd say, why are you so concerned about what happens to this body? Don't you understand? Like, why are you? He said, I'm here now. Where will I go?
And would have it changed the thing doing the radiation? That I don't think so. I have a really close up experience with that. My husband was ill with cancer for 5 years, and he passed in 2011, and that was one of the questions that I always had, because they found a spot on the top of his head, melanoma. And my question always was, if he just put his hat back on and ignored it, would have it changed one other than his quality of life through that period of time?
Or even if you never noticed, and never got the diagnosis, would it? Yeah, I always wondered that. Like, I have a feeling that like the stress of getting a diagnosis and then the mental suffering probably must exacerbate that. I don't want to speak too boldly on this. Obviously, I don't know, and everyone's a little different. But yeah, I don't know what I would do. But the thing is, how much of it is just the stress of believing that you have that and that it's a problem that it makes me wonder. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the diagnosis sets something into motion, it seems like. But but the thing is could we not go to the hospital? No, because we're not doing it. So if the hospital and the diagnosis and all that is part of our shtick here, then we're gonna go do that. And I look at all of the lessons that Kenny had, that I got. He was stripped to pure light towards the end, and I would never, want to deny that opportunity. But then again, I would never wish that experience on anyone. So it's
and yet you probably wouldn't change anything about what had happened. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah,
including up to and including his death. And
wow.
I mean, it's been 10 years. I still miss the guy. And always will. I mean, the love was twin flame sort of love. But it was all, to believe or to hope that we can change anything. That's one of the greatest stressors in life.
Yeah, and some of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard about the human condition were from, a hospice type environment, where, like you said, there's people that they're toward the end of their life, and they like you said, they get to a point where something changes in their energy and they just kind of radiate light in a way. And or you might say that if you were looking for a human kind of embodying an angelic type frequency, the best place to look is probably a hospice area, you know, like
I would
either
have
a
to agree.
volunteer or somebody dying or somebody sitting with somebody dying. They're all
Absolutely. My mom and one of my best friends was all going through it at the same time as Kenny. Kenny went first. My friend
wow.
my friend went 3 months later, and then my mom went about 17 months later.
Oh my God. Wow.
And so I was in the thick of it.
Apparently, yeah. Wow.
But there was still for me, there was still quite a few little holdouts in my own system until I started going through it 2 years ago. I thought that I had already gone through so much and really accepted death and really gotten to understand what it really was and that it didn't exist. And I mean, my mother had some amazing conversations from the other side when she was going through it. And
wow.
I'd had so many amazing experiences with Ken, but until I was faced with my own last breath.
Yeah.
There was still, I don't know whether it was amygdala sort of stuff that was still hanging around. But people who say that they are not afraid of death, that the only way I can see that would actually be possible would be is if they had the understanding of their nature. And I use nature loosely. The fact that we aren't even here to die.
Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as life. There's the only, unless you've, anyone that hasn't experienced that direct realization of their own true nature and their own false nature. It's just words. And even for someone like me, it's like on a certain level, even for me, it's just words until I have something terminal that I'm sitting in the bed going, oh, okay. Like until I'm there, even now, even as a sage, it's on a certain level, it's still just words. But even upon awakening, it's realized you were never born. There's no such thing as life. And for here, at least, it was realized there's not even a universe. And there's no physical world.
And even from the standpoint of that understanding, I found that there was residual body stuff.
Energy body that trickles into the body. About 10% of the trauma, 10% of the fear of death still remains. 10% of all selfing reactivity is still there. Yeah.
And that's the part that I got to meet this last 2 years, which has been
right.
Kind of, once again, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but
you wouldn't wish against it either on a certain
wouldn't
level.
Change it. I mean, it's been quite the ride, and boy, did it scrape out the corners.
And it might sound cold-hearted of me, but that's beautiful. It's profoundly beautiful. The whole thing, everything, even all that is part of, crazy. Yeah. It's
we never know how we're gonna react until we're reacting, since we're not the ones that are reacting anyway.
Exactly what I was going to say too, that I forgot to mention was, people always do that. They say, well, if I was getting mugged at knife point, I would do this, that, I'd throw my elbows. Like, you don't fucking know what you do. You have no idea unless you were there. And then you might have an idea like, oh, if I got brain cancer, I'd react this, that way. Like, you don't know if you'd get chemo or not. You have no idea. I have no idea what I would do in any situation. I don't know what I'll do next. It's like there's a wild animal in the room. It's like, I don't know what the tiger's going to do next. Anything, whatever it can do.
The idea that we actually know anything.
Yeah, that's true.
We're just here experiencing the moment, and this is going to function the way it functions through us. I mean, you can probably look at the odds based on who the mental patterns and the emotional patterns and all those things, but we don't know.
Yeah, even then, people surprise us sometimes.
I like it. I call it living by surprise.
It's fun.
Sometimes I go, wow, I didn't know I was going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what I'll do next, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely
it's
out of control. Fun. Absolutely 100% out of control.
Wild animal is the way I put it.
I call it the the wild child.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
That's a good one too.
seems
That's what I
like
always say to people. I say, every small child is a sage, every wild animal is a sage, but only 0.1% of adult humans are. It's an interesting conundrum, an imaginary conundrum that humans are in, because every tree and tree frog, every blade of grass, every snail, every cat or dog, every 3-year-old, and everybody in the last 3 seconds of their life are fully enlightened. And
What's
yet,
interesting is one of the messages that Kenny sent me from the other side, as if there was sides, words. Anyway, the message that he sent me is it only takes a small amount of salt to season the stew.
I like that.
Hence only 1% or whatever.
Yeah,
And we're
like
playing
that.
our role. Everybody's
Yeah.
playing a role. Why do from the seeker standpoint, those of us who are playing this role, we're beyond lucky and blessed and all these kinds of things. And why? No idea.
Yeah.
Didn't earn it.
Right. I remember, and when I had my Kundalini awakening, I had the first glimpse of that. That was 3 years prior to liberation. But I entered into such a profound samadhi at that point. There was just infinite bliss. And I remember saying to myself, what did I do to deserve this? But in a good way, instead of like the poor me, this life is hell. It was the other way around. Like, well, what did I do to? It was so infinitely loving and soft. Yeah, it was so beyond. And it's like I could have lived 1,000 lives as a saint and still not deserve this. And here it is, type of feeling. It's like, and then 3
and
years
then
later,
if you look
liberation.
at it, everybody is this.
Yeah, they already are this. They
And
might not feel
so,
that way. Yeah.
and I mean, because there's nothing but this. This is all there is.
They might not believe that, understand that, know that, feel that, experience that, or realize that, but that doesn't change the fact that they are this freedom at all times. Right. Yeah,
they are. And so you look at it and you just I just bow, to each of the, because without the contrast, where this would not be a playground.
Yeah, exactly.
We couldn't have a teeter-totter if the teeter-totter only.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if everybody was a sage, this whole world would be kind of fucking boring on a certain level, because play itself couldn't occur. Like this dynamic that I so enjoy couldn't occur. And it's not just, a sage talking to a seeker in some weird power dynamic. It's not that. It's like even just a sage talking to a sage in a world where it is the way it is. Everything's just so perfect and enjoyable now.
Another message,
very stark contrast from prior.
Another message that came from my mother after she passed was, because I was asking her about some relationships that I've got, and I was musing, and she chimed in unexpectedly, and she talked about it being, it's like we're all on a freeway, and we're going from Portland to Seattle. Of course, I'm on the West Coast, so it's 2 big towns. Going from Portland to Seattle. Some of us are closer to Seattle. Some of us are still closer to Portland. Some of us are still in the rest area getting ready to start. And she says, not one of us is better than the other one.
Yeah.
We're all on the same freeway. Yeah.
I love that metaphor.
Yeah, I do too.
And those are 2 of the cities I contemplated moving to in the future as well. That's my mentality, is like West Coast, Pacific Northwest. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about moving towards the beach at some point, but it will depend on what the weather.
Yeah, I miss the ocean. I lived in Florida for 6 months, and I'm originally from Iowa, so I never was by a beach, furthest away from any ocean in the country. But then I lived in Florida. I got accustomed to it. Now I miss the beach so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, really feeling a draw towards the water.
For sure.
Now. Not just a river. Feels like it needs to be big water.
Something about it psychologically is just so blissful. So it's like, or a clear open sky, an ocean, just that spacious, vast, expansive awareness. It's just, it's very enjoyable. Yeah.
Yes. It's this planet. This planet. I mean, the colors, she, he, whatever term you want to use. I know there's a lot of people that call it mother. And I understand that one, but a lot of it feels like very masculine sort of energy.
Yeah. And my awakening happened on Father's Day. So,
cool.
and it was in the year of 2017, which is the year of the rooster in the Chinese calendar. It was like the symbol of awakening, the symbol of Jesus or Lucifer, the Father and I am one. It's like a very masculine thing, even though awakened mind itself is yeah, it's interesting. It's whatever you were as a seeker, it shows you the other side. So it's like if you were very feminine, it'll show you the masculine. If you were very masculine, it'll show you the feminine. If you were an intellectual, it'll show you the value of the body. If you were only an athlete, it'll show you the value of becoming an intellectual. It'll show you the opposite of whatever you felt you were missing. Yeah, exactly.
Fills in the picture. It's
exactly right. Yeah.
It's paint by number.
Yeah, fills in whatever you overlooked or thought wasn't important or neglected. And you know, sometimes I'll be driving down the road and I'll just look up and the beauty of the sky and the clouds will just, and the light shining through will just strike me in such a way that's like, wow, like I'm living in a Renaissance painting of heaven. And it's right here and it's in real time. It's like, wow, you know.
Yeah, I have been doing that where I've been driving down a country road and all of a sudden it just turns to pixelated light.
Oh, wow.
And what's really interesting is you continue driving as if nothing, but you can't really see the road.
Whoa.
And it actually happened one time when I was driving up the Columbia River and I looked out onto the river. This was after Kenny died, and I saw Ken standing on the back of our sailboat, which we didn't have anymore, and he was gone, but he was with this big, huge grin, you know, with the wind just going like crazy. And when I turned around, the entire world in front of me reminded me of, you know, what Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come.
Yeah.
All the color movie. And all of the
paint, everything's paint.
Yeah, everything was paint in that. But in this particular, it was all fractals of light.
Wow.
And it was, so I just thought to myself, so that's what at least why is it one layer, one step back literally. Or whatever. That's what's here.
I don't know. I don't know if you've heard much of my story prior to awakening about that, but I had a similar experience when I was 24. When I went into that astral samadhi, a lot happened within what we would call 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like a lot longer. It was almost like meeting God on a certain level. But it showed me different layers of reality, and it showed me one layer behind the physical universe as solid white light, and that was the infinite attentional awareness, if you will, of each thing that keeps it as seemingly existent. And then behind that, though, it showed me this layer of this spongy golden fractal light. It was like Eiffel Towers connected to each other, but times a million in its opulence and its beauty. And it showed, and that was like the underlying energetic skeleton of the universe, if you will. And at that point, it said, "I am the architect." And you know, when I first met the light at the end of the tunnel, I was curious to see what it would call itself. You know, there's so many names it goes by. I thought, oh,
okay. The architect, I like that.
But before that, it said, "I am the original light."
Mm.
And then it said, "I am the architect." I remember that the fractal golden light at that point, anyway. And when I first entered into samadhi, I saw this tunnel of light. And, you know, it was kind of like Bugs Bunny Goes to Heaven. There's a glowing cloud tunnel of light and a light at the end of it. Oh, sure there is. Coming from a Buddhist perspective, like a very Judeo-Christian Bugs Bunny Goes to Heaven experience. Okay. But that's not what shocked me. What shocked me was there's this structure in the middle of it all, almost like a white angelic metal monorail type structure. And it had like fractal Mandelbrot holes cut out of it. Like it was a solid beam or like a monorail type thing, but it was thinnest in the middle. And, you know, that was like the silver cord. That's like the bridge between, you know, crown chakra and source, if you will, you know, that's always present. But I remember that striking me like, what is that? Like, okay, glowing cloud lighting, but what the hell is this? You know, this alien angelic monorail looking thing with Mandelbrot fractal holes cut out of it. So that's when I saw the fractals first. But then when it showed me a few layers behind the physical universe, if you will, that's when I saw that kind of golden fractal light. And, you know, it's interesting too, you know, a lot of people talk about seeing fractals when they kind of go into that area of this. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a few nights ago. few nights, like might have been a few months ago. But I woke up in the middle of the night and opened my eyes. And I was going to get up and go use the bathroom, and opened my eyes, and all there was this just amazing fractal patterns of color. And
yeah, wow.
And it was so fascinating because it was multiple dimensions, but it was obviously
Yeah.
dimensionless at the same time. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it lasted for quite a while, which was kind of
Wow.
fascinating. I went, well, I think I'm just going to sit right here for a while.
Yeah.
This is cool.
That
and,
is cool.
And that's when you know your mind is not creating any of this stuff, because
Yeah, you can't imagine an experience like that. That's the thing, it's like, so during that Kundalini awakening, astral samadhi thing, and then also when I saw this geometric shape, this body of light 3 years later, 5 months prior to liberation, both of those times, and even awakening itself, did have an element of like endogenous DMT production or something correlated to it, like not that we can explain it away with chemicals. This is obviously like a kind of like an astral energetic type thing that also correlates to physiological changes in the body and brain activity and the glands and things like that. So it seems to be primarily energetic, which then influences the endocrine system to release certain chemicals that also help it along to enter into that frequency without taking anything. Like when I was in my early 20s, I took psychedelics and things, and at one point I took like 6 doses of magic mushrooms and entered into a similar state where I saw fractal colors and everything. And I remember prior to that trip thinking to myself, like trying to theorize and use logic, like, oh, maybe there's 12 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension they revolve around. And then when I answered in that state, I'm like, oh, it's infinite. like you said, it's either infinite dimensions, 0 dimensions. Like dimensionality itself loses all reference or relevance. And I remember thinking that, like, I thought there were 13 dimensions, and I took 6 grams, and I'm like, oh, there's infinite. I'm seeing what you saw, that type of thing. But you can also see that without taking anything. You can also see that just from an energetic shift, that you just enter a different energy, and then that somehow triggers glands in the body, and it all connects in a certain way. And again, we can't just explain it away like material science wants to. Oh, that's just a chemical. It's like not like that, because you can have a hardened behavioral neuroscientist, neurosurgeon who's done 1,000 brain surgeries and just scoffs in the face of anyone that talks about a near-death experience. And then they have one, and they go, "Oh, I was wrong. No, there's something there. I was wrong. There's no way the brain did
that's
this.
what
No
I
way."
thought.
Yeah. Like, listen, I
Mom was-
am the foremost expert on the brain in the world, and there's no way the brain did this.
my mom, the last month or so of her life, I'd walk into her room in the morning, and she'd be really pissed that she was still there, because during the night she was being escorted into other dimensions, was what she called it at the time, dimensions, to different places to visit people, see old people who were dead, those types of things in the middle of the night. But she was being escorted by 3 angels, is what she called them. But she looked at me and she says, "They're not like the angels I was told about." And and I said, "So what were they like, Mom?" And she said, "Well, they were as tall as a house, and they were just nothing but light. And so some sort of light beings that were helping her adjust to dying, letting go." And it was just, and then afterwards, when she died, she said, she sent back another message, and the message was, "It's not dementia, it's dimensions."
I like that. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. Yeah, some people that have dementia, they almost seem to have access to things that the ordinary mind would call a whole spiritual timeless dimension of and part of it's like, if you view the brain as not what generates awareness but what limits it, then if your brain started shutting down and you suddenly had a more expansive way. It kind of does make sense if you look at it that way. So that's why, people that claim the brain generates the way, it's like, well, if you look at it the other way around, it kind of makes a lot more sense. This is like a limiting filter.
Yeah, I don't think
kind.
so. That's not my experience. My experience is that the mind, the brain, is in awareness, not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. So, the way I say it, the brain is dreamt up by awareness.
Yeah.
And then our personal experience is dreamt up by the brain that is ultimately dreamt up by formless, vast, spacious, clear light of awareness. Yeah, exactly.
The dimensionless. So it's, what we are is truly dimensionless, but there seems to be dimensions.
Yeah.
Which is also, not just the third dimension, but
you can tune into them like channels.
There's these dimensions of color, the dimensions of golden light and fractals, and and there's also the dimensions that people come back and talk about from near-death experiences, where they meet their families, or they have these different experiences. And so it seems kind of almost like a bucket, when you have mud in a bucket and it's real clear at the top and a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you get to the bottom and you're in the muck and the mud.
Solid. Big rocks and things at the bottom.
It seems to be the bottom of the bucket. and then you've got all of these different experiential realms. Yes, it's
exactly.
It's fascinating.
This is the most solid. I call this the shadow realm. This is the most solid, physical, embodied of the dimensions. And then as you go up, it becomes lighter and lighter, clearer and clearer, more spacious, and
I like the bucket analogy. It just kind of.
I like that. That's good.
Oh yeah, I never heard that before. Works.
I never heard that one before. That's a very good one. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's good.
We're just nothing but a muddy bucket. What's the old no mud, no lotus?
Yeah, I had a lucid dream once back when I was a seeker in my early 20s or mid 20s, I guess. At this point, probably about 23 at this point. And I had a very lucid dream, and I talked to a character in that dream, and they said, "The lotuses are born from the soil of nightmares."
Oh, interesting.
That always stuck with me, because what a profound line from a character in a lucid dream at night. Whoa. The lotuses are born from the soil of nightmares.
Well, actually, if you think about separation, it's truly the nightmare.
Yeah.
And
I call it separation anxiety.
So true. I mean, it's the source of so much thought and emotion and belief systems
the root of suffering
are created out of that. So from that standpoint, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Most of even the stuff that people say is dreams. They're moving the dream. If you really get them to be honest, it's all
dream yoga. Yeah.
Even if you get them to be honest with you, though, there's an element of the nightmare in there.
Yeah.
None of it, according to that dream, none of us get out of here alive.
Right. Yeah.
I just reminded myself that I had a dream about that last night. It was about a bunch of people who were doing everything they possibly could to outwit death.
Oh, wow.
It's an interesting dream. I'll have to spend more time playing with that one.
I always liked how Socrates talked about death, because he was 73 at the time when they finally tried to feed him the hemlock, and they were trying to figure out why he wasn't afraid. Well, he was awake, but they were flocking around like, "Socrates, why aren't you afraid of death?" And he said, "Why? I don't know what happens. Why would I? I have no clue what happens. Why would I be afraid of it? What if it's wonderful and I don't know that? Why would I be afraid of that?" And then when they brought the hemlock into the room, he said, "The cure."
The cure.
He said, the pharmacon. Like, he was greedily like, "Oh, thank you so much. Like, wow, you're so nice.
Let me go see what's
the
next."
cure. Yeah, exactly. He was 73. He was an old man at that time in Greece anyway. To live
73
that
in
old as a
Greece would have
warrior.
been an older man.
Yeah. So, he was already toward the end and for that cultural, perspective. So he had already lived a ripe, long life. So he had no fear at all type of deal. He was probably excited, like, oh, I wonder what happens.
Well, I am. Are
I'm
you?
curious. I'm excited. I'm curious. I mean, I'm not
I
gonna
am
rush
too.
toward it. I'm not gonna jump in front of a bus or anything, but I'm also, when it
Well, I
comes,
guess I'll jump in
I'm
front of a bus
curious.
if that's what the system's going to do.
Yeah. I don't know what I'll do when a bus comes, to be honest. Yeah, who knows?
I would think, I'm not going to jump in front of the bus, but who
Well,
knows?
that's the thing, right? And it's funny because you know how in Zen these days they'll say things like, "Well, how much ego is needed?" Well, it's just enough not to step in front of the bus. Well, I always used to joke and say, like a bus is gonna get me from the left. Like I was always very specific about it as a joke. So if it does happen that way, I'm probably gonna freak people out. So I told so many people that, you know, especially like older seekers and things. It's like listen, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like I'm young and it happened. Yeah, I could die tomorrow. I don't know. You know.
Well, once you live with my heart situation, you
Yeah.
literally don't even give yourself as much as tomorrow. I could
Yeah.
I
I
could
talked
die
to
in
my
the
one
next
grandma the
breath.
one day.
How would I know?
Yeah, exactly.
I used to talk to folks about it was funny. If you're supposed to be on the plane, and for some reason the plane that goes down, and that was the way you were supposed to die. If you were
Yeah.
supposed to die on that plane and you didn't get on it,
Yeah.
then a piece of the plane will probably hit you on the head.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. It's like Final Destination type thing. Yeah, that movie. Very similar.
It's
It's funny.
literally. I believe that there actually is, for those of us and myself when I was believing in separation. It's like we have a expiration date stamped on our foreheads. I've actually seen a vision of it. I came out of a meditation one day and opened my eyes, and the room was filled with everybody in the world, and everybody in the world had a date on their forehead.
Makes sense. I do believe in destiny and that type of thing. Yeah.
And
Scripted.
but what I also was told was once you wake up from the dream, you're no longer at the effect of the dream.
I've wondered that.
So
I've wondered about that.
But I think that it's not just automatic. you have to do the work of seeing through some of the old stuff that's in the way of that.
Yeah, if there is free will, it doesn't exist until after awakening, if there is any. Yeah, I know what you mean.
At that point, then it's not your will.
Yeah, you're just embodying the shared awareness and surrendering to it so fully. And maybe that's what the reactivity is a subtle fighting against the current of that stream. And when there's absolutely nobody there, absolutely no reactivity, there's absolutely no resistance to that current of aliveness that is manifesting in here now speaking. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And
maybe we call that the work because that's what it looks like outside looking in.
Great work.
But it's like it's working us all the time. I noticed that. I notice it all the time. I mean, there's always something new that's up to be, but there's just no involvement in it other than just kind of awareness of it.
Yeah, witnessing it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I look at like all of my health things and some other, all the little glitches that we think are glitches in our life. Those are actually not glitches at all.
Truly.
They are
no mistakes, no accidents.
They're the rubbing of the diamond. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know why. what we were saying before reminded me. I know it's a cliche, generic statement everyone's heard a million times. It was funny. I asked one of my
like
grandmas
cliches.
something.
Go for it.
Oh, good. Okay. But I don't know why it just reminded me of the. I said, "Oh, Grandma, what are you doing next week?" And she was like, "Honey, I don't buy green bananas." You know, just like that type of.
Oh gosh. I know that there was a time when it was really, really in my face that I literally didn't buy anything in bulk, that I didn't order clothes, that I didn't do anything because I didn't honestly believe that I was going to be here a day, a week, a month down the road.
Right.
I get that one. Oh man, when you said that one just reminded me. I'd forgotten
I didn't know why I was
how.
going to say that either. But yeah.
It's so funny. We're going through it, and then we forget that we actually went through that particular version. The mind isn't actually. It's a sweetheart because it lets us forget.
It is.
Things.
It's a beautiful toy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful toy.
And it's an exquisite limit that makes certain things functional that can't be functional without that supposed limit. And the whole destiny thing, I used to joke around, and I would actually believe it, but I'd also know it wasn't true. I used to be a singer and a songwriter, and I used to say, I'm going to join the 27 Club. I'm a rock star, and I'm going to die like Janis and Jimmy and at 27. But I'd say it with a smile on my face, and part of me knew it wasn't true. Like, part of me knew, like, I wasn't afraid. And at those times as a seeker, I was afraid of death. Really, I thought of as death anyway. I was afraid of the self going away, really. But I always used to say that to people. I say, I'm going to die when I'm 27. I'm going to die. But I'd say it in a playful way where I'm like, I know that's not true, but at the same time, I know that's true. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, in no way am I afraid of it. Like, it's actually going to kill me. Yet I know for a fact that I'm going to die when I'm 27. I never could figure out why until awakening struck at 27. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, 27 Club. Okay, sure.
I had something similar. I always knew that I wouldn't die. From the time that I was a little kid, I've always known that I wouldn't die. And I
had that too, I think.
Didn't really understand it, of course, until I realized that I wasn't born. And then you go, oh, okay, of course I'm not going to die.
Yeah. Never be born either, yeah.
Of course,
there will never be
Amaya,
life.
I mean, this thing called Amaya, the form had a breath day where it actually appears to breathe anyway. I've often played with the idea that there is no air, that we're not breathing anything, that water isn't even water. And
it's like the Matrix. You think that's air you're breathing? There was like a conscious there was a kind of like a more conscious rapper guy. I forget who it was, but one of the lines in one of his songs was along the lines of basically like, they lied to you when they told you there's no air in space and that you can't take your helmet off, type of thing. It's like, it's kind of like how yeah.
Oh, I like that.
They lied to you when they said that there's no air in space. You can't take your helmet
off. There's no air here either, sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly. They lied to you when they said there was air here. Yeah. There's no they to lie to you or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Who lied to who? It's just such an amazing design.
I jokingly say, I am the great deceiver.
And the deceived, you know?
I'm the magician and the trick being played, yeah.
That is a great analogy right there. The magician and the trick being played. We're all the trickster. I love the Native American coyote trickster.
Yeah, coyote or fox, they're both. And it's funny because in the tarot deck is like a story being told, and one of the subtler elements of that is that so the fox or the coyote or the fool is card number 0, and it's actually a story that progresses, and in the very beginning there's only the fool. And he has this knapsack, and one of the subtle mystery secrets of the tarot story is that in the fool's knapsack is the magician's bag of tricks. All the 5 elements that the magician has on the table in that card are already in the fool's knapsack type of deal. So it's like before the fool even encounters the magician, the fool already has the whole trick
deck.
toolkit, in his knapsack type thing.
Well,
I
of
am
course
the
he does.
fool in the beginning. Yeah.
Of course he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course he does. He is the magician.
Yeah, he tricks himself into being the fool at the beginning of the story. Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
Or the way I like to put it, I say, you are such a good magician and you are your own audience, but you're so good at it. You're such a good illusionist that you're sitting there going, oh, wow, how did I do that?
And because you're having so much fun, you stay playing the game.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to get to the point where we're just I did anyway. I reached the point of absolute futility. With it. There's some beauty in life being painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Pain, suffering, drama, and conflict all anchor a sense of realness into the dream of separation successfully. And so it successfully seems like a real world because there can't ever be one. And yet it sure as hell's pretty convincing. It's pretty persuasive.
It's very convincing.
Well done.
Yes. Aren't we great? We're very convincing magicians.
The way I put that, the sound of one hand clapping, it's like one hand claps as the other takes a classical bow. One's the audience, one's on stage, but it's all you. Yeah.
And the clown was never there.
Yeah, exactly. It's all bittersweet. And yet what the seeker might not hear there is that it's sickeningly sweet and we enjoy the bitter from this perspective, It's bittersweet before, bittersweet ever. Just the way that's interpreted is different. Now the bitter can be enjoyed, and yet things like overexcitement are almost not possible,
And even the bitter, the idea of bitter, the idea of sweet, it just dissolves into the experiencing of the energy.
It's all melted together.
Different layers of intensity.
Yeah.
When there is no label, and labels just seem to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's funny, I could be driving along and my mind will go someplace and I'll just start laughing. I mean, it's just hilarious. And you just go, wow, if you can't label anything, because you really can't, because it's just all this.
Yeah.
Then it's just the pure experiencing. The pure experiencing without a label doesn't have ideas of right and wrong, doesn't have ideas of good and evil.
Yeah.
Bitter and sweet. It just
awakening is amoral. It's not immoral, it's amoral. It's beyond good and it's beyond the delusion of good and evil. It's beyond the delusion of doership or a scorekeeper.
It also puts a different twist on the word bliss.
Yeah.
Because of what the mind thinks of is not the bliss of our nature.
Yeah.
The mind wants to make bliss into this ecstatic dance.
Yeah, being aware of anything.
Yeah.
Even pain is blissful. Yeah.
Yes.
And the whole bitter and sweetness, all the different perceptions that could go by name, all the emotions that could go by name. The way I put it is I say it's all crayons in a microwave. It all just kind of, all the colors just kind of melt together into one blob that's like inseparable, you know?
All the colors, when all the colors melt together, do you get black? Or in that particular case, I guess only if they blended.
It's like there's still a swirling mass, like there's still a streak of yellow, and but it's all one. Now it hardens after it cools, and there's just one blob. There's still individual streaks of color, but there's no individual crayons anymore.
Yeah.
And the wrappers have fallen off. It's just this one big amorphous blob of interswirled color, but it's one thing, you know?
And yet what's interesting is, leastwise for me, I look and I see the world pretty much the way I've always seen it.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't mean understand it, rocket, any of those words. I mean, when I look out, I see a chair, I see
Yeah,
a
me too.
table.
Yeah, and I'm even skeptical of people that say this no thingness. I don't know if they know what they're talking about on a certain level, because I don't see just a blurry mass. I see, yeah, okay, chair, lamp, yeah, but it's not. But the feeling tone underneath that, but that's what's cool about it, is even now, even in the fully awakened state, it still seems convincingly separate in a way that you can functionally inhabit a fantasy world, as if there are others, as if there are things, knowing full well, realizing full well that there aren't. And yet you can still
stumbled into a fun house.
Yeah.
And the fun house is all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
But the thing is it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. You can have fun with it. You're not
now
scared.
You can have fun with it. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now that
the way I put it, I say it's like a video game,
Yeah.
Now that it's a video game, you can do whatever you want in the video game. It's just a video game.
And
you don't take any of it seriously. And burn and die. Yeah.
Wow.
That's fine. Cool. Wow, it has that feature too. Wow, I can even die in this game. Cool.
What would this game be without that feature?
Yeah. Chaos, anarchy.
I think that without the feature of death.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't believe that there would be life.
Wouldn't be anything. Yeah, there couldn't be a world. If we took anything out of this dream, there couldn't be any of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I joke around sometimes, and I act like I'm the cosmic representative. It's like, I show up at your door with a clipboard and they say, you ordered everything, right? And they go, well, yeah. Oh, good. Okay, we delivered. Here, sign here. Well, why is there pain and suffering? Well, you ordered everything, right? You wanted everything? Well, yeah. Okay, well, we delivered. Everything's here. Or I'd say something
you ordered life. It comes with everything.
Exactly. Yeah, this comes with every bell and whistle. Yeah. Or I'll say something like, would you delete the flavor lemon from reality if you could? Well, no. Would you delete the color red? Well, no. Yeah, exactly. It's like that.
Yeah, very much.
And I wouldn't delete drama, conflict, ego, unawakening, war, none of it.
Have you read be a world. Ursula Le Guin's series? It's an old series called Earthsea.
No.
There's the third book in this series. I think there's 6 in this series. They're fairly small books. It's called The Farthest Shore. And it is one of the best how do you pronounce that word? Treatises? Is that right? Yeah, that doesn't sound right in my head.
Treatises or something? I don't know. Treatises.
On death. That I have ever read. She is just incredible. And it's all about a wizard. The Wizard of Earthsea. It's the whole series is just a kick in the pants to read.
Awesome.
And love it. In fact, I may go back and reread that one again, because she just nails what it would be like were death to go away. And it's just beautiful done. So
yeah, there's no way the world could be any different, and the fact that it seems to have certain limits are part of its beauty, including death. You can't imagine a world without death in it, because there can't be an imagined world without apparent death in it. It's like
And yet,
whatever.
what do people fight against? And
Yeah.
so many forms.
Why are they so easily manipulated and controlled into doing this or that? The fear of death.
Yeah, fear of death.
There was a play called Lazarus Laughed back in the day. I never saw it, but there's just one line I heard about it that I always identified with. And you know, Jesus brings Lazarus back to life. So Lazarus, like Jesus, has this awakened understanding beyond life and death. And the Caesar of Rome comes up to Lazarus and he corners him and he says, if you don't tell me the secrets beyond life and death, I'll torture you for 10 years and I'll murder you in public. And Lazarus just laughed in his face and walked away.
Go for it, dude.
Like, you think you can get me to tell you by threatening death? And tell you're funny.
And not only that, even were I to tell you, you would never believe me.
Yeah. Yeah, the mind couldn't accept it even if it wanted to. Yeah. Just like awakening, when a sage speaks very clearly and directly, if it's too clear and too direct, the mind will find any excuse not to listen, tune out, walk away. Oh, I kicked a candle over, my house on fire, I gotta go. And that was the subconscious mind trying not to hear the message, you know? Yeah,
Yep.
it'll do anything in this world to avoid the direct, clear expression of that message or of this message. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I write a lot. This writes a lot through me. But the ones that I look at, the pieces that come through that are the clearest message, are the ones that the least amount of people are interested in. It's
nobody will want to hear it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you pander to the ego and you lie to it, it'll sell like hotcakes. You'll be a multimillionaire in no time. You'll be in 5-star hotels for the rest of your life if you lie to the seekers full blast. If you tell them the romantic lie you know they want to hear, you'll be the next big thing. That's what's so unfortunate about it. If you do it totally directly and clearly, they're not gonna want to hear it.
and that's just the nature of those who are ready to hear.
Yeah.
If you're ready to hear, you can't not hear it. And if you're not ready to hear, it doesn't matter how clear the voice is. And yet this continues to speak, and it continues to speak through individuals, parent individuals. It continues to write through parent individuals. And everybody's going, well, God's being quiet right now. And all you can do when somebody feels that way is just smile.
Yeah, it's a silent transmission. It's an energetic transmission. It's a verbal transmission. It takes every form.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And it's always, always speaking in all of the voices, all of the mediums, all the time.
Or as I like to joke, I say, oh, there's a doer, all right. It's just not one of us.
Indeed. Indeed. And that's the hardest, for me anyway. It was I'm guessing it's probably the last step for everybody, but the final death of the idea of control, of being the doer, is the one that everybody I've ever spoken to has fought with and struggled with and argued with and denied. And no, it can't be that way. We have choice. I'm sure we do.
I like to talk about it like as if God is like a child and the only one of its kind, and there is no other, and it's playing with Barbie dolls or action figures. It's like there's nobody in there choosing, experiencing, doing anything. It's not moving, it's being moved, you know.
Paper dolls, dream characters.
Yeah, and it seems very so obvious when you say it that way. Like there's nobody in there. Like if it's an action figure or a Barbie doll, it's like clearly there's nobody in there, right? And like, oh yeah, when you put it that way. Oh. The child at play.
But even so, the Barbie or the Ken will continue to try to cling onto that idea.
Yeah.
But in their case, I'm sure there's somebody in there.
Or I always love how the mind does that. Like even as a seeker, I did it too. I'm like, okay, like I'm pretty intelligent. I've read about neuroscience and neurology, and like, okay, the seeking mind likes to say things like, well, okay, I can see how 95% of the time there's no free will, but there's got to be this like rarefied
Very
5%.
small, yeah,
Yeah,
small
this
smidge.
metacognitive state where I can, at least maybe 1% free will. Nope, 0.000.
And
None.
then it goes to, okay, maybe the character doesn't have free will, but I as God do.
Now that I'm awake, I have free will, right, guys? Well,
No.
remember, you're just a Ken doll. Oh, right. Ah, shit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like sneaks around the back door and then
Yeah.
goes in the back window or whatever
Yeah.
until it doesn't, and until
Yeah.
it's so obviously not there that you just have to stop.
And that's
And
how it was here, at least
yeah,
initially. It's like upon awakening, the freshness of that state, there was zero reactivity. Totally in that one taste, totally 0% reactivity for like maybe 3 weeks. And then at the end of those 3 weeks, just the slightest hint of the ghost of Andrew and its reactivity started trickling back in. And there was a reaction. I thought, oh my God, it's still in there. This can still happen. And then over time, it kind of fully came, 10% of the reactivity fully came back in, and then you can kind of get rid of that over time as awakening deepens. If you have multiple shifts, or if you go deeper into that state and embody it more, that type of thing. But it was interesting because I thought, oh, it's permanently gone totally forever now. This is it. This is full enlightenment type of thing. But then after 3 weeks, the ghost of Andrew and the reactivity just trickled in a little bit. Oh, wow, that's still there at all? Even a hint of that is still there? Wow. Oh, I
but
didn't expect that.
even the hint, even the 2% or the 10% or whatever it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
is so clearly and easily seen through.
Yeah.
That it's like
Exactly.
the puppet that keeps popping up, and you
Yeah.
just go, you just know it's a puppet.
Yeah.
And you also know that you're the one that's up there pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And it just eventually, it just keeps coming, and then it goes away, and it comes and it goes
Yeah.
away, and it pops up, and you don't take it seriously. And
Yeah, that's why I tell people. I say, even sages, flip out once in a while. That we have access to every human emotion. It's not that we're cut off from any part of humanity. Like there's still. It's just we don't take it. We might be quicker to calm down. Might take more to get us to that point. We don't take it as seriously. We're not under the delusion that we're doing something. So on and so forth.
and yet we grieve, we love,
Yeah.
we feel
Yeah.
more completely.
Yeah.
Leastwise, I do more completely than I have ever.
Yeah, more alive in general.
More
All the senses, the
alive.
five
Yeah.
gates are cleansed. All the senses are heightened. Everything is more intense, yet from a more detached, great distance type perspective. And yeah, there's unconditional love here now. I was very loving
Full
and sensitive, and
spectrum
now
feeling.
yeah, it's different though. Yeah.
It's cleaner. It's
Yeah.
not story laden. It's
Yeah.
pure feeling.
Yeah. Sometimes a seeker will say, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'll say, "I'm not." Why would you be sorry that something perfect just happened that you're not in control of?
And yet
Go,
sometimes the words "I'm sorry" come out of my mouth for somebody who needs to hear those words.
Yeah, it feels a little more forced when I do it. It feels like I'm pretending or playing a character when I do that, but sometimes those words will fall out of my mouth. Yeah.
They fall out of my mouth when they're needed.
Yeah.
And there's nothing here that would resist that happening anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if they're needed, they fall out of my mouth.
Yeah.
The old love, unconditional love means never having to say you're sorry.
Yeah. It
You're
depends.
not saying it, so you never know what's going to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's just an automatic response. We don't know what's going to happen next. And if we did, it wouldn't be fun. Even if I had that magical siddhi ability to see what happens next, I wouldn't use it because it's more fun not to know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not one I'd want.
Yeah.
I used to think I'd like to have it back in the, back in the seeker days. That would be a good one to have, knowing what's coming
I
next.
used to have that and kind of be able to do that on a certain level, and I still could. I just don't see the point. Why? Why would I want? It's like the way I put it is like, let's say you're playing a video game and you're having fun, and then I show you all the lines of code of the programming language that led to that experience. Well, that's boring. Why would I want to know that? Why would I want to peek behind the curtain and see all the code? Even if you could change things, what would be the point? Just enjoy the video game without the cheat codes, without seeing the programming. Just enjoy and savor the matrix.
I think I'd rather live it completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Live it freely. Live it by surprise, moment by moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And usually the reason why people want to know what's going to come is so that they can try to control what's going to happen.
Yeah, out of fear and insecurity and feelings of lack and fear of loss. And yeah.
I'm going to go out in a ball of flame or whatever. Hey, let's do it. I want to be the ball of flame in the moment. I just assume not have that.
I don't want to know 20 years ahead of time that I'm going to die in a fire. Fuck that.
That would kind of change the life.
That'll ruin your breakfast that morning at very least.
Yeah, a little bit.
At very least.
I think we may have come to the end, Andrew.
Might have. Technically, still have time, but if it ends, it ends.
It just feels like we're done.
Feels like an end, yeah.
Yeah. It was a delight to have a conversation with you.
So nice.
Rather than just simply, Facebook's back and forth or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I started doing these. I realized there's a lot that doesn't get conveyed through text. There's so much more there in a Zoom call, for example, than in just texting. Yeah, totally. Very enjoyable. I appreciate you, and I had a blast. I hope we could talk again sometime.
If that's to be, it will be.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Namaste, sweetie.
Love you.
Nice to spend some time with you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.